As you know, at the beginning of the legislative session, many bills are dropped. Members in the House prime sponsor bills in the House, and Senate members prime sponsor bills in the Senate. As of last week, some of these bills have been voted out of their House of origin and have moved on to the opposite chamber. So, we talked to House member Republican Representative Corry and Senate member Democrat Yasmin Trudeau to discuss a bill's journey in the second half of the legislative session.
After cutoff or halftime, a lot of bills have moved on. So we've sent stuff over to the Senate, sent stuff over to us. Any of the bills, with rare exception, that didn't make it out are now what we lovingly call dead for the year, which means that they can come back next year, but for now they're not moving forward.
So the bills that you introduce or the issues that you bring forward have to go through that sort of initial vetting process. But I think there's a level of accountability in our system because there's a lot of folks that will become familiar with the bill. There's a lot of relationships that happen in your own chamber. So if you're able to make it through, for example, the Senate, my bills will now go over to the House. The House will have the opportunity to analyze, process, take a look at whether they believe it's good policy, whether they can pay for it, and it sort of removes that relational piece, that piece where the prime sponsor is kind of in charge of their bill, which I think is a really important piece of how we hold how our government practices accountability.
Senators and representatives are often talking behind the scenes, and sometimes concerns with a bill are discussed in the hallways and over email, and sometimes those concerns are presented as amendments.
So we treat our job on a Senate bill just the same as we do on a House bill. It is our job to work and perfect a bill, find if there's potential problems, issues, or if there's other areas we can move that bill into to make it better. That's really our goal, whether it's a Republican bill or a Democrat bill. Members have the right to amend bills, propose ideas that we think would improve the bill or change policy if it's something we agree or disagree with.
There's more pressure on the sponsors when the bills leave their chamber. Maybe it's best to give an example. I have a Senate Bill 5360, which is a bill related to environmental crimes. So over here, we were able to really work on the bill, craft a number of amendments, slow it down, sort of have the ability to know that we were going to move it and amend the bill. The bill has now since moved over to the House. In the House, I got a whole bunch of emails from members that are like, we don't understand this bill, we haven't had a chance to have a conversation with you, we're being asked for amendments, and I'm immediately anxious because I know I've been having conversations with a number of folks on these bills, and sometimes amendments just pop up. So people will be like, well, I heard there was an issue, so I have an amendment to run, but they may not realize that there are 3 or 4 different reasons or potential unintended consequences as a result of their amendment. They're just trying to be responsive to a concern. And so I don't want there to be any amendments that haven't been negotiated, because if there are amendments that are added that haven't been negotiated or that everybody hasn't been a part of or I haven't approved, that can actually end up hurting the policy, and that will harm the policy in actually getting passed.
We have a lot of members that will go and look for ways to improve the bill because they want bipartisan support. They want Republicans and Democrats to vote for it. So they'll oftentimes be talking with us, talking with each other. Okay, what's the way we're going to work to make this thing pass this year? What do you need? What are your needs? How do we get you to yes?
If you have a really frantic session, anything that takes more time always works against you. So that's the sort of tension in continuing conversations about changing your policy, is that you could get caught up in a timing issue. We've had bills that have come over to us where folks amended them in the House, and now we're, do we change them? Do we not? What does that mean? If it is amended in the other chamber, it has to come back for agreement to the original chamber.
As you move through that process, you've got 146 other authors of that bill that are looking at it from their perspective and how does this impact my community? And so that idea is usually refined and oftentimes narrowed, right? Sometimes expanded, but it's really chiseled down, and that's one of the tough parts about governing, right? Is everybody brings these good ideas, and it's about getting it all together and making it work and fit, serve the people of the state of Washington, but do it in a way that's responsible.
I like to make sure that people can come to me and that I'm listening. And the bottom line for me is that people can disagree with policy, but if they respect the process and they feel heard in the process, then at least if the disagreement is there, we know, well, the things that we heard, we were thoughtful about and we addressed. You're not always going to like the thing. We won't always like each other's policies. And That's kind of a beautiful part of the democratic process. You don't have to.